All right. Welcome. Welcome to the November edition of the HyFlex Learning Community Gathering webinar. Today we're talking about something that is also interesting to most of us. We're all interested in those, of course, or we wouldn't be here. But we're going to be talking more, like everyone else in the world of higher education, about AI and education and the various ways we want to use it. And our particular emphasis, of course, is on how we do this with HyFlex courses, which means we can talk about anything because HyFlex courses often have classroom components, they have online components, they have synchronous and asynchronous. So it's all relevant, which is kind of a nice thing. And so today we have a specialist, senior instructional designer. Gloria, if you have a specific title for your role, let me know. But I know you as the senior instructional designer at St. Thomas University.
I don't know
Uh,
about but oh, and of course I start coughing.
yeah, who has done a lot of work supporting faculty and programs in designing and implementing not just HyFlex, but also assessment strategies and things like that, and gets involved in a lot of projects there. So she's going to talk to us today about using AI in different ways around assessment. And now there should be opportunities for us to ask questions and maybe contribute some other things, and we can look at some other aspects of assessment in using AI in assessment in HyFlex and related courses as we have time for it. We're only scheduled for an hour today, so this will be pretty concise, and we can certainly follow up afterwards through online emails or who knows other forms of interaction. Glory, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
Let me just
I'll just
share
be
my,
here. Let me know if you need anything.
I will. Are you seeing my Mentimeter?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to do a Mentimeter. We're just going to do a quick poll. And if you could go to menti.com and use the code 73208601. And maybe Jean or Brian, you could put that in the chat as well. So if you could join this Menti on your device. And then I'm going to move on to the first slide so you can start answering as soon as you are up and running. So what is your primary motivation for considering AI assisted grading in HyFlex courses? If you are indeed considering it, you at least came to this session, so that might indicate some interest.
Does primary mean only one?
Yes, yes, it does.
That's a tough choice. Okay.
Yes. Otherwise, people might put dots on everything. All right. So lots time savings and scalability, which of course often relate. And that is partly why we really think about talking about AI assisted grading in HyFlex is because one of the biggest concerns given by people about teaching HyFlex is the time commitment. How would you rate your current familiarity with using AI for grading? Moderate? All right, so we're skewing to less familiarity with grading in AI. What AI tools, if any, are you currently using for grading? Okay, mostly none so far. Very interesting. All right. Packback. So mostly none, a magic school and others, ChatGPT and someone who knows someone who uses Packback. How concerned are you about the following factors related to AI supported grading? You can drag the slider from not concerned to very concerned for each of those factors. All right. And as you can see with Mentimeter, we get the, I guess, I don't know if that's the median or the average score, and then you also get the distributions of scores. So accuracy is a concern, ethics is a concern, learning curve, loss of personal touch. So accuracy, ethical concerns, and loss of personal touch appear to be the most significant concerns. And what specific ethical concerns do you have around using AI for grading? All right, all very valid concerns. We're going to touch on some of these today. What additional supports or resources would you find most helpful related to AI use in HyFlex course delivery? Not necessarily just specific to grading, but as a part of this group, what kinds of things might help in the realm of AI to support HyFlex design and teaching? Accurate note taking for live lectures. Okay. Examples and experiences. I will be giving you a few of those today. Privacy protection. Cross-platform custom GPTs. Tested AI models in practice. Converting a course into different delivery modes. I don't have it in this presentation, but I actually did use AI to create quiz questions from recorded lectures. So we could chat about that in a bit more detail if we get some time towards the end. Otherwise, I can share with you that. All right, all good, helpful things for us to know. AI is a course tutor. Great. All right, so that is the end of the Menti. Any discussion before I kind of go into a presentation to guide the rest of our work here? No? All right. I am trying to get, let me get my sharing right. What are you seeing right now?
You see the presenter view? I think you need
Okay.
to swap if you can.
Yep, that's what I'm going to work on here. I'm not on my usual computer. So, how about now? Are you seeing the presentation?
And the note still.
And the
Just go
notes
to
still.
go to the
Okay.
top where it says display settings and switch it.
Display settings at the top. Oh, there we go. Swap. There we go. How's that? Are you seeing
Perfect.
the presentation view? Thank you.
Looks good, yeah.
At home, I can do it perfect. Here, it's like, oh man. So I start off, I've given this talk once or twice before now, and I chose this picture for two things. First is to demonstrate that I am horrible at generating images with AI. I have not mastered that. I cannot get it to give me anything even usable. But I thought this was kind of funny to see this room full of faculty almost looking like zombies in a workshop. So I left it in. So brief agenda, if you could in the chat Introduce yourself with your name, your role, and what's one grading pain point you have, whether it's related to HyFlex or other. And I'm going to show you one of my grading pain points in a bit here. We already did the Mentimeter survey. We're going to talk a little bit about why AI-assisted grading, specifically for HyFlex. We will touch on some ethical considerations. We'll look at some AI grading options. And then I hope to have time to just continue to discuss throughout this as well. So I'm going to talk kind of fast. We'll share the presentation with you and hopefully to go off on some discussion points as well. So we did the survey. So here are some of the benefits of AI-assisted HyFlex grading. We've already talked to time savings and scalability. That was on our Mentimeter poll there. Consistency and fairness, enhanced feedback, and data and analytics. So let's go into each of these a little bit more detailed. One way that AI-assisted grading can help is with an initial assessment of written work, for example, sentence structure, grammar, and then give you as the instructor more time to focus on high-level concerns. Consistency and fairness, perhaps AI-assisted grading can help you maintain more consistent evaluation standards across your modes. Enhanced feedback, it can be more quick at delivering detailed, personalized feedbacks, no matter how or when they're presenting them. You could use AI to analyze learning patterns to identify trends in performance across your modes, and then scalability. In theory, hopefully you could handle increased volume through automation of select routine grading tasks. And I'm going to go into that concept a little more in a minute. Again, there are ethical considerations. Is it unbiased? Is it fair? What do those algorithms do? What about lack of contextual understanding or demographic disparities or the concept of perpetuating inequalities? Someone mentioned this in one of the Mentimeter polls as well. Transparency. If you're using AI in grading, you need to tell students how you're using, and then provide a process for appealing any automated decisions. So for example, if you are using Canvas multiple choice quizzes, you're essentially using automatic AI grading, and students know that automatically, but they won't know that necessarily if you use AI in some other ways. Always, always, always address privacy and data security, know how the data is being used in each LLM or tool, and the security of the student data you collect. You have to review for accuracy and inconsistencies in grading, and that human touch that someone mentioned earlier as well. Perhaps if you use AI to grade writing mechanics, you can give more personalized instructor feedback in other ways. And I'm finding more and more, and it's becoming more and more prevalent, AI automations are already embedded in many of our instructional products and tools. So for example, Canvas Speed Grader, rubrics and comment library. AI helps power that. Did you know that Canvas has a comment library where you can create a series of different comments, and then you can bring those comments into your grading. It can be a great time saver. I used to do that manually with, what did you call it? Just a spreadsheet of different comments that I would then copy and paste. This makes it really easy, embedded right in Speed Grader. Automatically graded quiz question types. Now, the ones that I have in red, I have challenges with automatic grading. I don't use fill in the blank or fill in multiple blanks because no matter how many I choose or how many words I put down, they'll always come up with something that still should be right or could be right. So I'm wondering, I haven't explored this, but I'm wondering if there's a way to do fill in the blank questions with AI in some way. I'm sure there is. I just haven't explored it or found it yet. Would be love to hear about if anybody else has. Conmingo from the Khan Academy is coming to Canvas. I put soon or now. 4 days ago, there was a post that said it was here. I haven't heard at my institution yet if we have access to it yet. But there are a ton of tools here that can help with grading. It can help you generate discussion prompts, rubrics. exit tickets. That intrigued me, where you can do an exit ticket as a Canvas assignment and have students, complete something to see what they got out of your class that day, and much more. So if you have Canvas, that might be something might be of use to you. I think we're all familiar with various plagiarism detectors, such as this one by SimCheck, powered by AI. I'll take this moment to mention that I wouldn't use an AI detector at this point. There just is not enough reliability and validity with it. And I don't think there's a good tool yet for AI detection of assignments. Now, that said, also, I just read a LinkedIn post that talked about how someone has a way to use AI tools to de-AI check their work, right? So they're probably not of use. Does anybody use Perusal, a social annotation tool? Perusal has an AI engine to it that will automatically grade some of the work that students does, or automatically score it. And again, I have some links in this PowerPoint that tells you how Perusal uses it and then their privacy policy. In this particular case, personal data is only collected or shared when needed to provide the service. It's never sold and never used to train the models. So you'll see that in a lot of different tools. It'll tell you if it uses it to train the models or not. So let's stop with the PowerPoint for a minute, and let me get back to not sharing so I can see everyone better. So let's start a conversation. What are your initial thoughts so far? And I see there's been a lot happening in the chat, and I haven't been paying attention to that. So is there anything that we want to bring out of the chat into the oral discussion?
I think they were mainly introductions, Glori.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jean. I should have known that.
What you asked for.
I know.
Hey, I have something. In general, one of the things I've been trying to do is find ways to use a generative AI combination of things to make the assessments more individualized. So, for example, instead of using a single quiz for basic content to assess whether students are like prepared for class, I created an opportunity for them to have their own quiz. I've kind of prepared, a GPT for them, and they get their own quiz, and they can do it over and over again. And every time they get it, it's giving them different questions, and they can assess, they can ask, they can choose which level. So they could actually use it as a study tool as well. But I did that instead of trying to replicate old readings quizzes I used to have, because every time I have to I change that, or I write a new course, I got to create all those quizzes again. So I wasn't doing it. And I realized that, that really would help students to have that kind of checkpoint. It's just for participation, right? Do it 5 times if you want. And I found that what I could do also is have them submit like the summary they get a summary at the end. If I wanted to see what they were actually learning, what was maybe what were the difficult points were. But the point is, it's all individualized. No one ever gets the same set of questions. Pretty interesting. And I think if you feed it enough data, like here's the reading we're talking about, you don't have to. I don't have to worry that much about accuracy, although I do want to check on that, because it's kind of limited in what it's looking at least a starting point.
Any other comments or suggestions or thoughts around ethics, benefits, value for HyFlex? Is it something you want to explore? Or you don't know yet?
Glori, one thing I was realizing today was a lot of the strategies that we've been using to kind of minimize the amount of cheating. We would do things like, okay, it's going to be, you'll have this amount of time, you can have open book, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's becoming more of a challenge with AI, because it's no longer where you can't just go out there and ask the internet, obviously a euphemism there, but anyway, go and research on the internet, because you can ask a very focused question and get a response in that amount of time. So I'm not sure what we're going to do with that challenge, if that makes sense.
Let me tell you, since we have a little bit of a pause here before I go on with the rest of it. Someone mentioned generating quizzes from lectures. And so one thing I explored was, I think I did it in Claude. So I uploaded the accessibility transcript from a video to ChatGPT, and I asked it to generate a quiz and include the timestamps of where the answers were from the video. And I think that could be a valuable use case for students and a way to do formative assessments anyway, right? So they can watch the video and then they can take the quiz. And if they see where they got it wrong, they can go back and find it. And what I found with generating quizzes with AI is you always have to check it. You always have to tweak it. You always have to confirm that there are good distractors and that it's getting at what you want. Sometimes it's wonderful output and sometimes it's not. So it's partly what you put in and just partly how it's thinking for itself at that moment.
Hey, Lori, that's a really good point. One of the things that I tried to do was to get this AI thing to ask questions that weren't just multiple choice, right? Because even a good multiple choice question is often, you can figure it out oftentimes. Even someone who has, a good question, you can figure it out. So, and one of my students, they were like practicing with these things and trying them out and giving me feedback. But said, well, I noticed that these are all like Bloom's level 1 and 2 kind of questions. Can you give us something that asks harder questions? And so I modified it, and now it asks them if they want harder questions, and then we'll ask them to take a situation and do some sort of limited analysis or even some synthesis, come up with an idea about this, which is different. And it was really refreshing to me that my students actually asked for that, because I presented it to them as, hey, I want this to be able to help you learn. That was really refreshing.
All right, any last discussion points on this area before we move on?
Hey, this is John Bellotti
Yeah.
at UW Oshkosh, in Wisconsin. I was just kind of on the same lines, experimenting with the idea anyway that Brian was a little bit earlier, in regards to almost asking students in the beginning of the course a Mad Lib style type of fill in the blank. So what is a business you're really interested in, et cetera, et cetera. And then having AI come up with the scenario later in the class on X thing. I think it would de-incentivize somebody to cheat because it's something that they might actually be interested in. And, sure, they could utilize AI to still come up with the answer, but I think there'd be less incentive to do that in the first place, or they'd at least be able to vet AI or be interested in vetting AI a little bit more.
And that's a really good point. And what I'm finding, AI almost gamifies some things, right? I mean, you have to be careful you don't get sucked into it because it's kind of fun exploring it and seeing where it takes you. And if you can leverage that to, increase time on task by students, that can only help learning too. But it can also go the other way where you go too far down rabbit holes and don't get anything done.
Hey, Brian, can you explain a bit more about what you have students turn in when they use your GPT?
For the quiz one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way that's programmed is, I said at the end, offer the student a summary, of their responses to questions, what was right, what was wrong, and maybe some recommendations on what they can look at. And that's the kind of thing I would have them turn in. And I'm just looking to see, did they do it or not? Right. I'm relying it on, I'm not giving them a quality of learning grade. It's really, are you prepared for class, the discussions and the activities that we're doing this week? Because I find it's way too easy for them just to kind of skip over that stuff because they think they don't need to even read it before they come to a discussion, because they can pick up this, from a discussion, something intelligent to say just from the context of the discussion or the readings they're looking at while we're in the discussion. So that's all I would actually do. It's not a very elegant solution, and for a class of 100, that would probably never work. Although you could create some sort of Google form or something like that, probably turn it in and you get a little report. So that's what I've been doing. The challenge, of course, is that if you did that with everyone gets the same questions, and everyone's kind of messing up question 7 and question 9, you knew there was a weak point there. In my case, since they're all individual quizzes, and that's where maybe an AI tool could really help, is like, okay, all of these results, is there a theme here where seems to be one particular area that they are not doing well? And I haven't gone to the point of trying to develop that further. I'm still in like really early testing with my students to see whether or not they can even access these on a regular basis. So, but I'm hopeful. I mean, we're going to have tools like this soon. If not, I mean, I know other people with a lot more money and time than I have and expertise are working on this because they want to sell it to us.
Yes. Well, this is a perfect segue into the next section. Let me just try and share here and see if I can make this work right this time. All right, which one are you seeing now?
It's not
Nothing.
shared yet.
Nothing.
Don't seem to
Ay,
be.
ay, ay. I'm a rookie. I feel like a rookie.
Blame it on the time change.
Yeah. Can you see it now?
Yeah, it looks like the main screen. I mean,
My presentation. All right.
yeah. Mhm.
You know, just switching computers is that's enough to throw you off, right? All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about custom assisted grading AI assisted grading options, which is what you're chatting about right now. So you can, everybody's heard the term chatbot, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude. What the research currently says is that they're best at assisting with grading of short answer questions, of what they call a 5-paragraph essay, and answers that require numerical resolutions. And you can customize them to your need. You can create a GPT that you can use for your course to do a lot of different things. I'm just starting to explore that. I will not claim to be an expert in any way, shape, or form, but one of my colleagues is really diving into this and doing lots of cool stuff. So what I'm going to talk about now is how I created something to help me in my grading. So I used to teach instructional design for leaders, and it had 4 major projects and required APA style. I despise grading APA style with papers that don't want to do it or don't apply themselves to it. So that is my pain point. I needed a way to help me with AI graded APA style. And I think this actually works. I'm pretty excited about it. So I use Perplexity. I'm going back and forth trying to learn different tools. This one particular example goes back and forth between Claude and Perplexity, not because one is better or worse than the other. They have different capabilities, and I'm just still exploring. So I asked Perplexity to suggest a prompt strategy to use for grading student papers, specifically APA format. And then again, we're going to share this PowerPoint. But what's cool about Perplexity that you might not have known is that you can capture the thread. So if you want to demo something for your students or share it with a colleague, you have a copy link. So if you click on this link, it'll tell you what my prompt strategy was, what the full responses were, and with Perplexity in particular, it tells you what the citations, where it got the information from. So this is an example. I just pasted part of the response here. So this is what it came up with. There's information about in-text citations and the reference list, what it's looking for based on what it found in internet sources like the APA style guides. And then down here on the bottom, it tells you where it got, what the sources that it got it from. So then not because I needed to, but I just decided I was going to test the prompt in Claude. And I said, please grade the attached paper with this prompt. So I took the student name out just to be safe. One thing to know about Claude is it doesn't save your data. It doesn't train its model on your data unless you use the thumb up or thumbs down. Then it uses it to train the model. So use the thumbs up or thumbs down to the response, that's the output that's generated. The other time that it will use save your data is if it breaks the ethics or the usage requirements or guidelines for the site. So I attached the prompt and the paper. And here are the results. I was like, whoa, wow, it told me exactly what this paper did for each of these areas based on the APA style. I think at one point, I don't remember here if I put it in this one or not. At one point I said, outline what is done incorrectly and also give some positive feedback on the paper in terms of APA style, which I think is important. And then I decided to go a step further, and this part still needs some work. I decided to apply the actual grading rubric to the same Claude discussion, the part on APA style from the rubric. And what I found was I need to be more granular in my point scales, right? So this one graded it accurately based on this rather limited rubric. It got 0 to 7 points, needs improvement to meet proficiency. And this is how it documented that it had more than 5 errors in APA style. And then it also told me for example, if there was more than one instance of it. It didn't tell me the specific numbers, but it would say in some or in give you a little bit more information on that. All right, so I'm going to stop there for a second. It looks like we're doing okay with time. Any questions or thoughts on using something like this or developing something like this for your grading? And while you're thinking, I'm just going to mention that if I was using this for grading, I would tell students that I was grading their APA style with this tool. The other thing I might do, I think I would like to do, is give them the prompts, say, upload your paper, see what it tells you, go back in and fix it. Because what I found when I was grading on APA style in my courses was that I'd spend all this time making all this feedback, annotating it in the paper, and they would resubmit it and wouldn't change anything, which of course was very frustrating and aggravating. So, and then I, maybe revise my rubric as to how I addressed if they changed the stuff, what the findings were or not.
Glori, if you suggested that they go ahead and upload first and then fix it, would you ask for both copies?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have to see. Brian?
Yeah, I do a draft review cycle with the papers and the classes I teach usually. And so students, 1 week they turn in a draft and then they get assigned 3 peer reviews and then they do a final version. And I created another GPT to do peer review with them because some of them, when they're late to turn in their draft, they don't get into the peer review process that's administered by Canvas, the LMS, unless I rerun it later. And then it's likely that they get assigned peer reviews, but no one else has turned a paper in late, so no one reviews their paper. So that's something called my peer review partner. And what I found is that it has a lot, it goes to a lot more detail like what you're showing here on the screen than I would ever do. And I've kind of trained it to kind of be constrained to the assignment, the rubric. I preloaded that and the student just has to offer their paper up to be reviewed. And so they have to make a choice as to whether or not, whatever situation they are in is whether or not that goes into the LLM training model or not. That's one of the things we're figuring out. But the students who've ended up using that, a lot of them now are using it as a way of just preparing their draft, even in a, to go along with the peer review because they get so much more detail. And it can be an amazing tool for that.
All right, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I just had a question on how you do this. So you're in Canvas, you download the document, put it into this
Claude or Perplexity, let's say in this case.
Yeah, and then you get the information. Then do you cut and paste that into the comment section and score the rubric? Sorry if you hear my dogs barking. How does that, just kind of explain your process for this?
I haven't actually implemented this process because I'm not teaching right now, but what I would probably do is attach it to, I would probably have them upload their paper. I would do the first round of grading. And I think in Canvas, you can attach a document, right? And I would probably attach that and say, if you want to improve your score, address these things. Or I would say, do it first and then have them, when they submit, have them attach both what AI told them, and then maybe even reflect on where they're struggling in APA and how they might, improve that. And this, I taught graduate students, right? So they have to be able to do APA right. And I don't want to spend the time. I spent hours and days correcting APA, and that I do not find joy in that. So I think this would be helpful. I did share this with the education leadership program, and I think they might be trying to use it a little bit as well. Other thoughts? Other pain points that someone might have that something like this might help?
One of the things I found I can't have it do is any kind of interpretation or analysis of the quality of like the arguments they're making, because I think it's really hit or miss around that. And so I use it primarily for if, formatting, it's pretty good at. Things that are missing, it's pretty good at. Other kinds of things like that. But for the quality of what students are actually writing, I don't trust it for that yet.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I would try it for APA and write in mechanics to start, and then spend my time on the meat of the paper, the thought processes, and then be clear about that, be transparent about that with students. All right, is that my 7th? Oh, go ahead, Jean.
No, I was just say one thing that's funny about it is you can ask it a process to go through to arrive at an answer, but if you ask it something that it has to employ it, it's really bad with logic and those kind of steps in implying them. It's really odd.
I often start my prompts with, tell me what you need in order to be able to do this. And it's really good at that. It thinks of things, I'm like, whoa, oh, did I see your hand up, Tara? Sorry, I didn't, that blended into the background.
That's okay. I just put it up. I guess I'm just thinking out loud here that I like the idea of using it to get better quality submissions, for them to kind of go through a process to help. Because I think the major problem is on the end, we're spending so much time giving that correction, that feedback. If there's no like them resubmitting and seeing that, it's like, are they getting it? Are they making the changes? It's a lot of work on our end, but are they putting the work in on their end? And so I think using the AI as like their way to check themselves and use that in the front end will give us better quality so that we can use our time more wisely, I guess, and giving feedback in the quality as Dr. Beatty was saying, just the quality of the arguments and things like that, and we can let them handle the mechanics up front is sort of my thought.
So it's almost like a tutor, right? An APA tutor.
Hey,
Yeah, Brian.
Glori, what I found is that when I started giving them better feedback on the draft process, their final versions are so much better, and that's the one I'm grading. And so it makes my grading so much faster because most of it's pretty good. It's there's a lot less to say when I'm giving them the grading kind of feedback, and that's the kind of feedback that they might push back against, is the stuff that could concerns their grade. And so they're ending up with a lot better stuff. And I know that some of them are using probably AI a little bit more than they're telling me they are. But most of them, I think, they're just learning how to write better in the field, which is what we're trying to help them.
Doug.
Glori, can you talk a bit more about the privacy and FERPA and those kinds of things, and whether you have any kind of policies at your school? Because I know I work with a lot of faculty, and their main concern is, I'm taking students' intellectual property and I am not going to put it in any of those models. It doesn't matter what they say to me. Without better privacy protection, we're still feeding the students' work to an outside entity. And I'm just curious how the faculty that you work react to this and what your experience has been.
We first of all ask that everybody I look at the privacy and security information, any tool before I use it. Okay. And then that's why I know that Claude, the thumbs up or thumbs down, uses it to train the model. To be safe, I took out the names of the students, which was only really on the first page. I probably wouldn't, do the, and actually for this particular example, I only uploaded the APA page, which is another way to, if you are concerned about security, that's another way to address that. So it's not really so much their intellectual property in this example. That's an area that we really have to explore more and do use caution with, and know what you're using and how it uses your data. I think what we're going to see, I have been going to so many AI talks and such right now that my head is spinning. But I think what we're gonna, based on one, I can't even tell you which one it was, one or more, I think we're gonna find universities developing their own models, their own more secure, um, contained GPT models, LLM models. I don't always get my words right here. So that's what I suspect, or what others suspect. What anyone else have thoughts on that?
Gloria, I would think maybe a front end to an existing model, because it would be, I think, I don't know anything about it. I don't know how to design one, but I think off the cuff, it would be a challenge to get the depth of information that you want when you're creating your own, and to keep it current. So if you could just create a front end to strip out the privacy stuff up and down, maybe.
There is so much that can be done, and there's so much that's happening every day that it's crazy. What I tell you today, 2 weeks from now, may be totally out of date. And I'm not even joking. I'm supposed to do an EDUCAUSE learning lab, Jean and I, in January, with an AI flavor to it. And I'm like, how can we even create this lab for that many months, 3 months out even, which isn't that long, when things change so fast? So that's, yeah, I would recommend that you follow someone like Ethan Malik, or what's her name, Hardman, Philippa Hardman, if you're an instructional designer, and just try and stay abreast of all of this stuff. Find someone good to follow. All right, good questions. So that was also another good segue into some challenges. There are challenges with the free versions. This is a screen capture from this morning when I went into Claude to try and do some more work on what I showed you. And due to high demand, Claude 3.5 Sonnet is temporarily unavailable for free plans. So that is one of the challenges with the free versions, right? And you need to keep that in mind for your students as well if you're having them use AI. So, which brings me into the next thing that we are currently looking at. I learned about this in an EDUCAUSE learning lab I'm in right now, called Teaching with AI. And this tool, Boodlebox, basically, I don't know if I want to call it an aggravator of a whole bunch of different bots. And you can pick the one that you want to use and run a prompt. And right now they have a 1 year free with the code 12 months unlimited. Now, there's a lot of big universities already using this. There's a lot of companies already using this. What we talked about in our staff meeting today was, well, what are they getting out of it? What is going to be their revenue generation model, right? And that's a question for all of these. Right now, there's a lot of AI startups, and they're putting all kinds of money into this. But the way I'm looking at it, I'm going to use this to explore all the different tools. I need to dive more deeply into the privacy and security, right? Always have to keep that in the top of your mind. But if you go to Boodlebox and use that 12 months unlimited code, you should be able to get a free pro tool to explore. And I don't know, I'm afraid to touch anything because then I'll get out of my presentation. But I can upload, if Jean or Brian has these codes handy. Otherwise, as soon as I get done sharing, I'll upload some of this into the chat. I just know now if I touch something, everything will probably go away. All right. We've been talking about privacy and security. I already mentioned this a little bit. This by default, prompts and conversations are not used to train Claude with the following exceptions. Thumbs up, thumbs down, reach out with a request if flagged for trust and safety review. And then I also link to their privacy policy. So I would do this for any tool you decide to use, is make sure you understand their privacy policy and tell your students to do that, to make sure that be careful what they're putting in. It's kind of the wild, wild west right now about what's being put where. This is just a little bit on chatbots versus commercial AI grading systems. I put the commercial AI grading systems at the end because I don't really use any of those and I know less about it. And I want to make sure we got to the other things first. But this just kind of summarizes, if you're comfortable using AI, then try creating your own bots. It's more flexible and you can upload what you want to us. Versus commercial which would be something like Conmingle, right? Easier usage and more efficient. The interface is more specific to grading, but you have less control and less flexibility, and there might be a cost. So just to give you an idea of some of the tools, there's a ton. There's a ton of them. I haven't used any of them other than what is embedded in Canvas. I'll be using Exploring Conmingo when that's available. And then we do have a limited license to Magic School AI, which some of my colleagues are exploring. I haven't used it much yet, partly because it's kind of got a really K-12 interface, but it does have a lot of good stuff in it. So those are just some of them. And then Grammarly. I have mixed emotions about Grammarly. I like my grammar. I like my spelling. I think I'm pretty good at it. And it pops up and tries to tell me what to do with my spelling and grammar. And then if I don't use it for a week, it pops up and tells me that I haven't used it for a week in my writing. So I know students use it a lot. They do have a free essay checking tool that you might find of value for your students. And one of the important things, if you didn't already know this, is that if you are using an AI checker to check and see if students are using AI, and they use Grammarly, which a lot of students with English as a second language do, and other students do to learn how to write better, it will flag it as being AI generated. So that's just really important to know. So that is all I have prepared. We actually have a few minutes for discussion if you want more discussion. And Brian, you didn't think I could do all these slides in the time allotted.
You did great, Glori. It didn't feel rushed at all either. So, yeah, I just looked at Boodle this morning, and I'm amazed. There's so much collected there. But I tried to use it, and actually I couldn't get it really to work. I thought gave it a task, and it seemed to eat up what I gave it and not give anything back. So I have no idea if that's going to be useful or not. Especially just going through the various tools. What I've been finding when I'm working with students is tell them, find a tool you can use. Find a tool that is easy for you to access, that seems to do what you want, and work that tool to see what it can do. And if it doesn't do everything you need, look around and see if there's another tool that can do it. I happened on the ChatGPT 4 because I had a student 2 years ago when ChatGPT just got announced, and he started telling us how he was using it with his high school students. This is a grad student, but I had never heard of it before. I knew about AI, but not really about generative AI and the power possibility. So anyway, it was one of the things I looked at first. And then I saw someone talking about a custom GPT they built. I thought, well, how hard is it to build that? I went on YouTube. It turns out it takes almost no time at all, but you have to have a paid account. So I went to OpenAI, paid my $20 a month or whatever, and started to build and play around with those. That's why I ended up there. And our school now has gone to Copilot because we're, I guess, a Microsoft IT campus. And so, and the problem I have now is I can't transport what I've done in one platform to another platform. And I don't even know if there's a tool that's similar to help me do that. I'm sure there probably is. In the long run, this is not going to matter at all, right? Because it'll be much more, I guess, ubiquitous. And so one of the questions I often think about and ask is, what if we're building all this stuff now, and even all these other tools, Glori, that you were showing, how many? They're all built on either today's or yesterday's or the day before yesterday's models and the way the models work. Next year, the cutting edge models are going to work differently. Audio, video, all that stuff's going to be much more capable. And in 2 or 3 years from now, a whole nother generation is going to come out. So how do we design in our strategies now, thinking about this kind of for resilience? Because as it gets more comprehensive and more interactive and perhaps even more engaging, we're going to want to take advantage of that. So that's one side of this. And I'm just going to say one more thing. And the other side of this is what happens when we have to teach and evaluate and assess when the tool's not available for whatever reason, or the students have to do their work, and so for some reason the tool is not available. We can't lose the basic skill set, right? That we're teaching them, and et cetera. So I fear a little bit of over reliance sometimes, and yet I'm not letting that stop me from playing around with it and seeing where are the limits right now.
So have we scared you off of it or intrigued you to try AI for grading in HyFlex and other classes? I should have done a poll for this.
I'm definitely intrigued. Like I think as a teacher, like I'm not afraid of technology. I want to learn it. It's just the time that it takes on the side to learn this new technology and tool and implement it. And I wish we had that. I don't know how it is at other institutions, but I feel like we don't spend as much time, continuing to develop us in the technology and learning all the ed tech tools that are available and out there, and how we can incorporate that into our classrooms. So I wish this was more entrenched in our profession.
That's actually part of my role here at St. Thomas. Is right now I'm working on our first AI badge, a very entry level one, which is basically going to be, here's where AI already is, here's what generative AI is and what it can do. Explore one tool, get your, log in, get it, and do something with it. And then reflect on your experiences. So that's going to be like a very short initial toe dipping badge. And then we're going to develop a series of, scaffolded, more intense, to address that, right? We have to address that. This is so different. I mean, we thought online teaching was a big difference. This is several levels.
Yes, next level for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of it. I am a doctoral student, so I'm very much intrigued by AI, and I see it as a supportive tool. It's no different than a teaching assistant or having someone assist you in the classroom. So I think if you view it as something that assists you and not something that can replace you, you can be more open to the idea of using it. You can't learn all the tools because, trust me, I know a plethora of tools. I'm exposed to them on a weekly basis, and I see it as an assistive element to our education and being able to deliver quality teaching to our students. And it just helps us not to be burnt out, because when you have a large class and a lot of student marking, it really could consume you. So I think it all boils down to the mindset of the person using it, and we'll be fine. Yeah.
Thank you. Howie, did you have something to say?
Hey, Glori. Yes, I think that part of because I have taught large enrollment classes for many, for decades, right? So thousands and thousands of students, I've come from it from a point of intervention. So as an educator, I want to be able to we have all this data that from students with the Canvas analytics now, and we are feeding it into me and a computer scientist, not me physically, but we are feeding this information to try to like early submission, how often, some other indicators. We've come up with 7 indicators, basic indicators from their assignments. So their behavior within the LMS, And so with 80% accuracy can predict their final grade. So we've trained it with a couple of semesters of data. And so now I want to be able to say in the first 6 weeks, I can predict your final grade, but now let me think of some interventions of things I can get for you to do. Maybe you need to read this lecture again. Maybe you need to take the AI and hover over a couple of paragraphs and simplify it, or make it ask you questions back. So really capturing that essence of not just the grading piece of it, but using it as a tool, assistant tool for intervention and for success. Because obviously I want these tools to help my students better be prepared. So that's what I'm doing over at Kentucky.
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming, but I think you just have to pick something. Start with something. And that's what I did. My first thing was the quiz generated from a video. And then my second thing was the APA grading. So I picked things that either I have to do for my job or I need to know. All right. Any other last comments? Brian or Jean, anything to say?
Well, one thing on the scaling piece of this is we've always had issues with low enrollment classes that are low enrollment by design, like composition classes, because there's so much work involved in giving students enough feedback about their writing. And I think that if the tools continue to get better to do that, and there's data that shows, hey, this is actually really good feedback, there's going to be a lot of pressure to raise those enrollments, which is not going to be good for those obviously the pushback I would expect a lot of pushback from the faculty, because it's, giving feedback is more than just having the tool do all this. It's like the interaction and the relationship, all that stuff. But on the other hand, for these courses that are huge enrollments, 100 students, 500 students, 1,000 students, imagine the kind of feedback they can get on some assignments that they could have never gotten before. Because who's got the time to do that, even with a whole fleet of TAs? Now a tool can give really pretty reasonable feedback, and it's only going to get better, I'd say. And so there's a lot of promise, I think, in the world of assessment. And I think the biggest kind of the bang here, I think, is for the higher enrollment courses that are struggling for good learning because there's not a lot of engaged assessment going on. That's just my perspective.
All right, Brian, there was a question on if this is the last meeting for the year.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking about that earlier today, and I think we're going to schedule one more for most likely. I'm thinking like the first week of December, that kind of early December, right in between, because I don't want to wait until January to kind of gather again. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick another topic related to AI. I feel like around the engagement topic, but we haven't decided on that. We haven't even discussed it as a group. But if you have things that you would like us to cover, especially in this area, but others as well, just send us a note. Let us know. We are gonna create a kind of a community survey as well at some point to ask about that, because we want to kind of have a little bit more of a planned program for next calendar year. That's a great question.
And I did put the PowerPoint in the chat.
Thanks, Glori. Jean, anything?
No, for once, I've just got my brain going, and I can't wait to get off and start looking up some of the things I wrote down while we were having the
Cool.
webinar.
All right. Thanks, Glori, very much. We really do appreciate you spending the time to prepare this for us and leverage the work you're doing in other places as well. Thanks everyone else. If you do have any other feedback, don't hesitate to send it to us. The recording will be available soon in the archives section of the gathering archives on the HyFlex Learning Community. Have a great day, week coming up. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You want to turn off the recording, Brian?
I do.